Coming up on this episode of In Your Mind.
But there's so much in the mind, and I'm just a firm believer of the body can actually do quite a lot if you can
Mm.
just mentally get through. So it's just a combination of just, I think, realizing my own self-worth a little bit and just constantly pushing both in my career and my fitness and just emotionally of what am I capable of. And I just enjoy the journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of In Your Mind with me, your host, Paul Trudell Payne. And I am beyond thrilled to bring in a new friend and honestly, another dad, which is always fun. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been genuinely excited.
Well, tell me a little bit, even before we get into my first question, we're going to do a
Sure.
question point five. Tell us all a little bit of just like what career dad is, which is, sort of how we connected.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So career dad, I think if I take it back just a little bit. So I have a day job. I work for a global bank. I look after kind of websites and digital stuff. But then I think it's the easiest way to say it. But I've since my kind of mid-20s, I kind of realized that I had this ambition for a career that up until then, I was quite happy to just work in the video game store and get drunk on the weekends. And that was kind of me. And then I thought, oh, maybe there is more to life. And so I got, quote, a real job. And I started getting a few promotions and started enjoying the work that I was doing. But family has always been incredibly important to me, even from a little kid. I think, and there's probably some pop psychology that could be delved into here, but I remember well, my parents were still married, so I was definitely younger than 7, and knowing that I needed to have a family. And importantly, I needed to have a son to carry on the family name. So that's strange.
Well,
That aside, family. I've for the longest of times, I've always known that I wanted to be a dad, and it's only when those two worlds collided of the ambition for my career, but also wanting to be an active, present father, that I felt guilt, this really strong guilt between, as I just mentioned, my parents divorced when I was quite young, and I didn't see my dad as much as I would have liked to. And I thought, how could I choose that? Like, how could I create this family unit and then choose not to be as present in that family's life? That just seems wrong. But then you start enjoying the work. The work takes you around the world, and you think, this is really fun. And I just felt this real struggle between the two. And it was when so I've got 2 kids, and it was when my second child was born in the summer of last year, 2019. And I had 3 weeks paternity leave, which was fantastic. But by the end of week 1, I just wanted to check in with work just to see, how did that presentation go? How did so-and-so's promotion, did they get it? And I just got met with this barrage of, make sure you're supporting your family, work will be here when you get back, don't worry about it, and get your priorities straight and all of this. And I was thinking, I get it was coming from a good place, but actually it didn't take into account my needs, which was, yes, of course I'm looking after my family, and I'm doing that, but I can do that and also find out how the presentation went. They're not mutually exclusive. And I thought that I can't be the only dad who wanted to have, this successful career, but also do the school run, who wanted to have the best of both worlds. And so I kept going over those 2 words, career and dad, and then finally threw them together. Did a little video on LinkedIn to say, does this mean anything if I say it? And was just inundated with dads going, yes, yes, yes. You don't have to explain. I know what you're talking about. And that's kind of how it was born.
I love it. there's so much to unpack just even right there. So before I even go into it, we just have to start now. So let's go. First question. Um, tell us all a little bit about you as a child.
Okay. So, as a child, I was I guess what, like early childhood, or like what
It's your story to
any
tell. You get to tell us
fine.
where to start.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I guess so. Early childhood. So I have a mum, a dad. I have a sister, but it's a half sister. So my family's very complicated. There's a half sister, a stepsister. There's lots of marriages. There's lots of divorces. I found out about marriages that my parents don't even know I know about. So it's, yeah, that's more to unpack, right?
Yeah.
But as a kid, I hope you don't listen to this. As a kid, I was pretty happy. I think that I was just a happy-go-lucky, I classic extrovert. I think that I made friends easily. I always liked to be a bit of a comedian. When I was a younger kid, probably up until 10, 11 or so, I was quite smart. As in, I always say that, like, I've always had the educational capacity of about a 15-year-old, but like even as like a 5-year-old, but also as a 25-year-old. And so, early school was really good for me. I was also from the age of about 5, quite overweight, which just got worse as I got older. So I was bullied quite a lot. I say my parents divorced, when I was 7, and that was quite hard. We moved quite far away. So I kind of left all my friends and all of that. And then I kind of, I just really got comfortable in being by myself. So my sister, my half sister, she's 7 years older than me. So she went off to university or college when I was 11. So then it was just me and my mum. And my mum, was working. So I just spent a lot of time playing video games, and PC games and things. And then kind of, fast forward to kind of, I'd still say childhood, that like late teenager phase. I was really self-destructive. I think that there was a combination of being overweight and kind of bullied, and my way of dealing with that was just being over the top confident, on the out, which sounds weird, right? Let me play that out for you. So in terms of, if we were talking about insecurity and self-esteem, right? So my self-esteem was so low, super low. To overcompensate for that, I appeared like the most confident, the most handsome, the most, that's just, I'd say it was a persona, but I don't actually think it was. I think I just kind of embodied it, because it started off as, well, this has got to be a bit funny for this guy to think that he is someone else. Like, that's kind of a bit of a joke. And then it turned out that, like, people were drawn to that. So then when I went to university, I was kind of one of the really, really popular kids still, as like an overweight. I was going through a heavy emo phase. I'd go out to kind of clubs and like like nights out with friends, and I'd just go up to the most attractive girls that I could find and just start talking to them and just be like, so I think we should probably hook up, because why would you not want to hook up with me?
That worked.
And sometimes, and like my friends were just like, what? At this point as well, like, I don't know what your weight metric system is. Are you kilos? Are you pounds? I think you're pounds. Are you?
Pounds, yep.
So, okay, pounds. So I think at this time I'd probably be close to 300 pounds. I feel like that's about right.
No.
Yeah. So I mean, now I only know stone, which is a problem, but I think there are 14 pounds in a stone. I have a calculator here. at my height, I was 24 stone. So if I do 24 times 14, I was 336 pounds, which I'm obviously not now.
No, not at all.
No, but yeah, and I'd be going up to these girls, and everyone would be like, "What's this guy doing?" And then every now and then it was, but that was from such insecurity that I was kind of having to validate myself, and yeah, it was really tricky. So in a nutshell, I guess that is my childhood.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like it's I understand the idea of like I'm so insecure, so I will appear the opposite. You
Yeah,
know, like
because what
I
have I
get,
got to lose?
yeah, you exactly. Like I get that. It's also though, like for me, hard to really sit and say, man, how do you do that?
Mm.
And do it in a way that it doesn't take just like one person to be like, I don't think that's real, or something where then
Yeah,
it's like all falls apart. Because like
yeah,
for
no.
me, I would think that's exactly how it would happen.
So
Is like I'll be
yeah,
unconfident for an hour until one person questions it, and then it would just
yeah.
fall apart.
So the way, and this is really hard because I'm now having to try and reflect on something that I didn't even think about, right? But I think one of my friends, and I say friends, and I use the term really loosely because the way that I approached friendship was low quality, high quantity. So I again would be validated by the amount of people who I knew, and it would be, and I say knew, I mean enough for people to be like, and of course, because I was, as I said, I was a big guy both in weight but also stature, 'cause I'm 6'5". So being called Dan, there wasn't much creativity. My nickname was Big Dan because I was called Dan and I was big, right? So Big Dan. So I'd kind of get validated walking between lecture theaters, and how many people would say, "Hey, Big Dan, are you out tonight?" Or "Hey, Big Dan, let's grab a coffee after this." And because there was just so many, if one person was like, "That guy's a joker," one, there'd often be enough people who saw me as enough of a comedian that wanted me to maintain that persona, so they'd kind of fight for me,
Yep.
or that they wouldn't have to because people wouldn't say it to me. I was definitely talked about a lot behind my back, but again, I was only really discovered later on. And so I think it was just more of a quantity thing. Like people would say things and it wouldn't really matter because there'd be enough people saying the opposite. And the problem with low self-esteem is that validation comes externally. So I was 95% external validation, 5% internal validation. And over the
Yeah.
years have been working on moving that to more, crossing the thresholds to be more
Yeah.
internally validated. Yeah.
I wonder too, and this is like we I don't even have time to unpack this, but I wonder because like there's something to say I do think about being 6'5",
Yeah.
right? So like yes, you might be overweight. You're also though that's a
Yeah,
tall
yeah,
man in any
yeah,
country, I feel like.
yeah,
Um
yeah,
and that also is like just ingrained into us, right? Of like, well, they're tall, like it
yeah.
tall means
There's,
good. Like that's a
yeah,
good thing.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I even had, people would say, "Oh, you carry your weight well," or "Oh,
Oh,
you
I
can't
hate that.
be that heavy." Yeah, I know, right? You can't be that heavy because you don't look it, and things. And so yeah, and you're right. There is something about being tall. I don't know what it is, but even what I found in a professional capacity,
Mm,
people have always listened to me because not because I'm tall, but it plays a factor, right? It's
100%.
very strange, very
It's
strange.
yeah, it's like I said, I want to unpack this, and I'm like, you need to stop talking about it. Um, but it's true,
We'll have
like
to do
you,
part two.
yeah, like you really like it is. Like I keep thinking, even just myself, like yeah, like I was at Microsoft, and our head of recruiting, I mean, he was like 6'4" or 6'5", and I remember people. He is actually really awesome, there's been other times where I had bosses that were just like that, and people would be like, why is he in charge? And it was always like, I think it's just because he looks like an authority.
Yeah.
Like, it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with skill set. I'm not saying you have a lot of skill set, but you know, like,
thank you.
Like, it's crazy. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's almost like if we were back in the 90s and we were meeting, I would tell you, like, you need to go to MTV right now, and you need to teach them how other tall guys should just be confident all the time. It doesn't even matter what they're worried about. They just need to be confident. I swear, would be like a touring speeches nonstop.
Brilliant.
For tall men. Tall men.
Well, if there's still a niche, I'm happy to look into it. But yeah, you're right. There was definitely, you know, and because I wouldn't even consider myself to be kind of in that freakishly tall thing. I just like, I know I'm tall, and people tell me that I'm tall. Not so much anymore, because it's a bit weird to go to like a grown adult and say you're tall. But yeah, I kind of used to it, and I kind of played on that. But I remember my first job, my first job as a 15-year-old. I worked in like a pharmacy, like a drugstore, and I remember in the interview they said, what are some of your qualities? And I was like, I'm really tall, so I can reach the top shelves of stuff. And they were like, you can. And that, like, again, it wasn't the only thing that got me the job, but, you know, working in a drugstore where it's the majority are kind of middle-aged or slightly older women, I can reach high places.
This is great. Okay, so there's more to Dan, I promise everybody, than just tall. So,
I feel like I'm being pigeonholed. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you go from college, right? Insecure, still really, right, in university,
yeah,
to then career? Because you have a pretty amazing career now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so again, I think, so part of it, there's a few really pivotal things that happened in my life that I genuinely don't know what path I would be on if they wouldn't have happened. And I will answer your question. I'm very good at going off on a tangent, but I always bring it back. So the two things that are really, really pivotal are, I met my now wife at college, right? So we dated. She's a year older than me, so I was I don't get the whole freshman sophomore type thing, but so I was in my first year and she was in her second year.
Got it.
We dated for my first year. I wasn't the best boyfriend, and so we broke up. Rightly so. I didn't treat her very well at all. We then really didn't speak for a couple of years. And I'll come to why this is important. But at the end of university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All of my friends who were kind of career focused had got on grad schemes, which was like, I was like, why are you applying for grad schemes in your third year? There's a whole year left to party. What are you doing? Realized that obviously they were doing the right thing. So I kind of finished uni, had no job lined up, had nothing planned. So I was like, I'm going to go to America and I'm going to work in a summer camp, an overnight summer camp, and do that for 4 months. And so I did. And, you know, getting on a plane and not knowing anybody, I'd never been to the States before, and being landed so I went to Ohio, Cleveland, in 2008, which at the time had just been voted the most depressed city in the US. And this was my taste of America. And I landed at JFK. I then got a flight out to Cleveland, and then a bus to, there's a little place called Chardon, which, you know, is like Amish country in North Ohio. But it was great, right? So I got thrown in, and this was self-destructive Dan. This was Dan who was validated by acquaintances, validated by how many girls he could hook up with, validated by who was talking about him, right? Very, very. I mean, the kind of macho competitions I got into was who could get the most tattoos, right? So it was just like, it was very, that's how I rolled. And I went into this environment where I was responsible for I think there were 12 11-year-old kids at an overnight camp that me and two 16-year-olds were responsible for, which is nuts, right? Like,
yes, it is.
it's absolutely insane. But obviously there's a supervisory structure in place, and there's like professionals. But I think going from an environment where I was eating too much, I was drinking too much, I was gaming too much, to an environment where I went to coach basketball. So I did that. I was outdoors 6 days a week, working, teaching basketball for 10 hours a day, then doing other classes in my off time, and then planning night activities. I lost a ton of weight. Because also my eating was regimented, right? You ate what the camp gave you, and they were catering for kids, so there were things like salad. And so I was doing that. I made true friends, as in people I could tell my deepest, darker. The conversation we're having now, like I mean, we know each other a little bit, and I think we've formed a friendship. But I would not be having this conversation with you 10 years ago. But these guys who I was meeting, I was forming that friendship to be able to do that with. So I think that then happened. That made me realize how badly I treated this girlfriend at university. I'd messaged her and said, basically, I want to apologize in person. I completely understand if you don't want anything to do with me, but I'd love to do that. One thing led to another. We started then dating again the right way. And then we we moved in together, we got married and had a family. And the reason that that's important in terms of this validation piece and the career piece is because she has seen me at my absolute worst in terms of health, in terms of attitude, in everything, and has almost stuck with me, seen it through to what hopefully now I'm able to provide this really nice person who is, stable, emotionally and physically. And so I think that having that kind of camp experience, then starting my career, there's still, I don't know whether fatism is the right word, but there is still something in the workplace that is, if you are overweight, you are lazy. And so I dealt with that. And it kind of got to the point where I thought, I'm sick of just not being given the right opportunities, and not, I don't feel confident standing up doing a presentation in a suit that's a bit too baggy, and to kind of, and I just thought enough's enough. And so I started losing weight properly. I then started getting, I then got a job for the company I work for now, which I say is a global bank. And I started looking better. I felt more confident, and then I kept losing weight and kept looking better and stuff. And then I think that kind of that all came together in a nice little catalyst where I realized if I worked hard and almost loved myself, let's just see what that did. And then, I just kept getting promotions, really. I mean, I can definitely go into the kind of, tips and tricks that I found for that, but I'm conscious, unless you want this to be a 3-hour podcast.
I am curious because I love this whole transformation, right? And I think we've been lucky enough to meet people while doing the show that have had some form of transformation. You are the first person, though, that I've got the chance to talk to where that transformation actually was brought on just by yourself. Everyone else was like, I talked to a doctor, I did hypnotherapy, which is, by the way, amazing and also great. This is just like, I'm very curious to find out how you then found that.
Yeah, absolutely. So two things again. I know things should be in threes, but this is two. I think two things. So I'm an incredibly competitive person, but I'm competitive with myself. So I think that really helps. And again, this is more learned. I never used to be. I would compare myself with, where do I rank with my peers? Where do I do?
Mm.
Then realized how unhealthy and toxic that was, and thought, actually, what if I just try to better myself? That seems like interesting. So I'm incredibly competitive, but again, with myself. But the other thing is, I got to the point where I just thought, I say I tried to lose weight. At the time, I genuinely thought I was trying, but it was, I'm going to do fasting and see what happens with that. And then I do that for 2 weeks, go, no, that's not for me. And then I try no carbs, and then, I want the pizza. And so I basically just yo-yo back and forth. And then I just thought, I wonder what happens if I don't quit. I wonder what that looks like. And so if I want to do that, instead of trying to do these big seismic changes of, I'm going to go from eating 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day and doing zero exercise to eating 1,200 calories a day and working out 5 times a week, that probably isn't going to work. But what happens if, instead of ordering pizza and chips, I just order the pizza? And I wonder what happens if I switch from full fat Coke to Diet Coke. And, if I go from lattes to just black coffee, just little things. And then things that are more sustainable. And you then over time start to notice. And it was, I think the combination of that and the final thing, which is a little bit of an outside influence, but my friend said to me, he's an ex-snowboarder who wanted to get back into it. And he said, Dan, I'm gonna go do snowboarding lessons again. I want you to come with me. And I said, I said to myself, I'm too embarrassed. There is no way I can do that. And I thought, why am I holding myself back from life? Like, there's so much I could do. And so, that all kind of compounded. And then it's really rewarding to see those things happen, because we talk about the competitive side, right? And I went from learning to snowboard and doing that and thinking, oh, that's kind of fun, to then someone saying, hey, I wonder if you could do a couch to 5K. And I thought, nah, that's too, but let's try. I did that. And then I did a 10K run, and then I did a half marathon, and then I finished the half marathon. And someone said to me, oh, you've done the half marathon. It was a charity I was doing some kind of pro bono work for. And they said, we've actually got a slot for the London Marathon. Do you want it? And I was like, these are so hard to come by, but I can't do it, but I'm going to say yes. And so I did that. And then I did the London Marathon. And so in the space of I think in about 10 months, I went from couch to 5K to marathon. And since then, I did a bike ride last year, part of a team that we raised £50,000 for charity. We cycled from London to Amsterdam, which is quite a long way. And again, it was like I had 5 weeks of training to do that. But there's so much in the mind, and I'm just a firm believer of the body can actually do quite a lot if you can just mentally get through. So it's just a combination of just, I think, realizing my own self-worth a little bit, and just constantly pushing both in my career and my fitness, and just emotionally of what am I capable of. And I just enjoy the journey.
I have a question for you before I go to my last question, because I'm keeping you on your time frame.
Thank you.
How does it feel, honestly, just genuinely, how does it feel to know you went from, overweight, insecure, and not that those things go away, but I went from living only in that to now being able to say, if I were your child, I can say, like, my dad did a marathon and raised 50,000 for charity, and he has this job, and he has this podcast, and people know him. And like, how does that actually feel, knowing that that's actually where you are now?
Yeah, not very real. Because I think, because I haven't, it's actually quite strange recapping it, because all I've ever done is live it. So it's never been a conscious thing. It's just been a natural evolution. But yeah, when you say it like that, there's two emotions that came to mind when you're saying it out. One is, that's actually quite cool. I should be quite proud of that.
100%.
The other is actually quite sad, because I think how many people are stuck in that former place. And I think that we talked about childhood at the start. I remember speaking to a kid at school, and I was probably like 13, 14, and he he was kind of from a poorer family, and he wasn't very academic, and he had some kind of like personal hygiene issues. He was teased a lot and things, and he was in the same class as me, so we spoke because I'd speak to anyone. And so we were talking, and this is a little bit naive, but some of it I still think holds true, is that he was saying to me, like, why, like, how did you get good at like maths, or how did you get, and I was kind of like, I just think that anyone can kind of do anything. I think if you've got the desire to do it and you're willing to put in the work, I just think that it's possible. Now, 14-year-old Dan clearly had a bit of the world to kind of learn, but I still think there's an element of that. And so, for me now, having gone through that journey, I genuinely believe that, and again, this is going to sound really egotistical, and that's not the intention, but I genuinely believe I can do anything if I want to do it. It's just how much do I want to do it, and how much do I want to devote my time to it. And actually what I really enjoy is telling stories like this to people, sitting in front, talking to a room of 200 people where there might be 3 people in there who go, oh my God, I needed to hear that, because now I can have this. That's what I want to do. So if now I'm in a place where I can almost open up my deep, dark secrets and it helps someone, isn't that just really nice? I don't know what else is there?
It is. It is. I mean, it really is. I don't, that's why I wanted to ask, because I just think no one ever takes the time to sit and really appreciate themselves and appreciate the journey, and actually sit there and just say, like, I'm amazing. Like, it really, like, you amazing. How amazing am I? And not in an egotistical way. And that's why I even sort of quickly try to bring in your children, because like, that's what I think of whenever I feel really good about doing something. It's never because like I don't know why, but for me it's always like, oh, I cannot wait to, like, my son is this age and can say that I did this. It makes me feel so good to know that he could do that. So
that's very true. That's fair.
Yeah, like,
however, I did say to so I've got a nearly 6-year-old son, and I said to him, I was doing some work earlier, and he said, is it career dad work? And I said, no, it's work. And then I said, oh, someone wants me to do a talk for career dad. And he said, oh, that doesn't sound good. And I said, no, it is, because, someone else heard me do a talk and they thought it was good and they want me to do a talk for them. It really helps people. And he said, I don't really get the career dad business. Like, he's 6, right? And I'm like, oh, do you want me to explain it in a way that, and he goes, nah, I think it's boring. And I was like, okay, well, it's basically about, trying to help other dads who want to have a successful career, but all, like, he's really into his video games. No surprise. We're playing a lot of Splatoon on the Switch. So I said, it's about being able to, to earn enough money so we can have this nice house and we can do nice things and we can also help other people out, but also that I can come and play Splatoon with you. Yeah. And he's like, career dad's about playing Splatoon. I'm thinking, okay, we've gone on a real tangent here. Yeah. But it's in the mind of a 5 or a 6-year-old. It's at the moment when I tell him that, oh, I did this talk and someone messaged me afterwards saying that has really helped. And he's like, no, that's boring. I'm like, yeah, I'll wait till you're older.
That's what I do. My head Andrew is like 22. He's with his girlfriend. Like, that's my fantasy.
Yeah, okay, we're having a beer. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I have one final question because I know it's late over there. That's cool. We started where we should, which is the beginning, which is you as a child. And I'm so happy that you shared everything you did with us to really take us on that journey. So if that same child was in front of you today, what do you think you'd want to say to him?
Oh man, that's a really toughie. So I've got to stay with the 2 things, right? So the 2 things. One, I'd kind of be tempted to say nothing, because I'm, again, a big believer in that everything happens for a reason. And maybe some of that is to just justify some of the not really nice things that have happened to me, and that it's all for a greater cause. But I am a believer in that. And so if I said something that put me on a different path, would my life be where it is now, where I'm genuinely happy? And with that, and I tell people that I'm happy. That's different from being content. There's still things that I want that I don't have. I'm just happy that I'm on the path to having them. And so that's where my happiness comes from. However, if we put that to one side, I think I'd say, I'd I'd say two things. I would say two things, and I would say one, it gets better. There is a time, if you remember back to your teenage years where that is all you know and that is life, and how can anything get better? It gets better is one. And two, I'd say, what aren't you interested to see what it looks like when you don't give up? And just leave it at that.
That's a good one. Dan, that's a really good one. I cannot thank you enough for being here, number one, but I honestly cannot thank you for just sharing that, because I truly do believe that that story can help so many people, like truly so many people. And I'm really excited to have formed a friendship with you and to even call you a friend. Like, it's honestly the things that you are going to do, because you're already doing really good things. So, I mean, just the things that are already coming, I'm so excited to see, and the impact you're already making. It's unbelievable. So you should tonight go to your wife, and while the kids might not appreciate it, tell her that she needs to appreciate it, because you are pretty unbelievable. It really is. It's an amazing transformation.
I really appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. And it's been great speaking to you. It's definitely been more emotional than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I'm just so pleased that we've met and that we got introduced. And yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing where our friendship goes as well.
Yeah. And before you take off, please tell everyone how they get in touch, how they follow Career Dad, you, everything.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So, and again, I'm really big on the people side of things. So if anyone has heard this and thinks, I have this issue, or please do message me, and I'd love to talk it through. So Career Dad is careerdad.co.uk, if you haven't guessed, from the UK. So that's that. All of the social channels are at Career Dad UK, and that's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that good stuff. And then LinkedIn. If you search Career Dad, again, on LinkedIn, we've got a page. I'm there. Please do connect, and I'd love to talk to you.
You guys go follow him, go connect, go subscribe, whatever you can do, because I'm telling you, even his TikTok game is on point. Like, it is hilarious. So Dan, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome getting to chat.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Paul.
All right. And we will see all of you guys next week. So have a good one. We'll see you then. Bye.